Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I would like to take a look at another trade setup that was been sent in by one of our customers. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Greg for sending this this trade into us here for us to look at. So I want to share what he did here. And I want to share it because it's a great example of how we use our DPs on our hard time frame charts for support and resistance, larger degree support and resistance, to then gauge the larger degree trend. Remember, our STF color is only used for our newer traders, and we're very aware that this, like any other indicator, is slow to change direction. So you can see this TS3 sell setup, although it's with a red STF, obviously didn't catch the large degree uptrend. So what do we do on this? Well, for this we go to the higher time frame chart. So you go out to the 15-minute chart. I just want to put some white space on the right hand side because I want to stress yet again that these are leading indicators. In other words, they're on the chart in advance. So even before yesterday opened, you can see that here is a prior pivot low. We right mouse click, we place the decision point on. There it is, there in advance. It's there before the market even gets there. That's the really important point to stress about these levels. And you can see what happened for the rest of the day. I'll just take that space off so we now got a bit more chart space to work with. And you can see what happened for the rest of the day. In other words, this decision point level caught the low of the day and the market then rallied off that for the rest of the day. Let's now go down to the 3-minute chart. So can you now see how this TS3 sell setup is now against our larger degree uptrend off this larger degree support? So more experienced MTPredictor users could either decide not to take this TS3 sell, or what we also teach is if you, sorry I missed there on the mouse, if you do like the pattern of this and you wanted to take it, you now know it's against the large degree uptrend in this case. Therefore, once it goes past the 100% initial risk level, which we have on our chart there, you can bring your stop to break even. So in other words, this would have been a break even trade, i.e. no loss. Let's just clear this off. But ideally, now you know that the market's rallying off this 15-minute support level, you should be looking for buy setups. Now Greg had his scanner running, so he saw on the 5-minute chart that there was a TS3 buy setup unfold a bit later in the day. So can you all see how the market is rallying up off this larger degree 15-minute support? Therefore, taking the buy setup would now be in the direction of the larger degree trend. Let's place the analysis on. This was also a very special trade because we call this our Holy Grail trade setup. Why do we do this? Because we look for the initial rally off a low. Here's our higher time frame support zone, which then defined this as an important low. We get an initial rally. That was a bit choppy, but that was the initial rally off the low. We're then looking for the initial correction. This will be deemed in Elliott wave terms a wave 2 after the initial wave 1 rally. We're then looking for the market to rally into the typical wave 3 WPT, in other words into a wave 3 kind of swing, type of swing. These levels again are on the chart in advance, so rather than looking to come out at the first target, you'd actually be looking to come out at the typical wave 3 WPT. And if I place the analysis on the chart, you can see that's exactly what the market did. It rallied up into the typical wave 3 WPT where you'd be looking to come out. And in fact it did that just before close, so you would have come out just before close for a very nice profit. Remember, we use correct position sizing to vary the number of lots, contracts or shares to keep our initial risk small under control. But then the other side of the coin is when the profits come through, they are larger than the initial risk or larger than the losses. The reason I like the Holy Grail trade setup as one of my favorite trade setups is because we are trading the wave 3, which is normally the strongest and longest wave. The profits are much larger than the initial risk or the losses. In other words, here the profit was approximately 7, or can I say almost 7, 6.9 times the initial risk. In other words, it was much larger than the initial risk. So hopefully this has been a very good example of the MTPredictor tools in action on the YM yesterday, and I wanted to share it because this was a trade setup sent in by one of our customers. It's always good to see our customers picking up on trades like this. So again, the highlights of this were, first and foremost, we had our higher time frame support. That was on our 15-minute chart, but the most important thing is that was on the chart in advance. In other words, that defined that low before the market even got there. Once that came in, the trend was then gauged as up. We were then looking in our scanner for 3 and 5 minute buy setups. There wasn't anything on the 3-minute chart, but when we came to the 5-minute chart, there was a buy setup here. Because this was the initial correction after the initial move off the low, it would be deemed a holy grail trade setup. In other words, we'll be going into the typical wave 3 WPT, and all of this in the direction of the large degree trend off that low there. The result was a lovely plus 6.9R profit, so in other words a nice profit in relation to the small initial risk. So a great example of the MTPredictor tools at work in the YM yesterday, and even better than that, this was a setup that was actually sent in by one of our customers. So again, I'd like to say thank you to Greg for sharing that with us. Much appreciated.